So, Joe, I was watching a Netflix documentary about back in, I can't remember, late 50s, early 60s, maybe mid 60s, but like the single greatest toothbrush salesman in the history of the United States. I don't know if they kept those tracking numbers in other countries. I don't even know if other countries were brushing their teeth in the 60s. But there was it was one of those things where you're like, am I really watching this? But you're like, it's mesmerizing and sucked you in. The thing is, the interesting thing, this is the era of door-to-door salesmen. And this guy had a debilitating stutter, lispy speech impediment. But yet, he was the salesman. And nobody could figure it out. And, when he walked in the first day, they're like, we're not going to move a lot of products here. So they're like, all right, here, you can have these 10 toothbrushes. If you sell them, we'll give you more. He's back like the next morning, and here's the money, whatever it was, like it cost him 25 cents a toothbrush and he's selling them for $1 or and it was the latest, greatest toothbrushes of the time. And people were like, oh, as the days go by, now they're giving him 25. Now they're giving him 50. Now they're giving him 100. And every morning he comes in, here's the money for the toothbrushes. Let me, have the next batch. And now he's gone from, well, they're feeling bad for this guy, we'll give him a shot, to, wow, he's moving product, to, what the fuck is this guy doing? And, and so they have a big seminar. They call all the other salespeople in, and they're like, we're taking lessons from this guy. How are you doing it? I talk to people, and the toothbrushes are great, and they can't buy them fast enough. And if you give me 100, I sell 100. You give me 200, I sell 200. And I just a people person. And they're like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So they decide they're going to trail him one day. And so it turns out he's selling these toothbrushes at the airport. And he has a whole table set up, and he has 4 or 5 different kinds of baked goods, mostly cookies, and the toothbrushes. And all the things are free. Like it's just free samples. And so somebody would come up and he'd be like, do you want to try a chocolate chip cookie? And the guy's like, sure, try a chocolate chip cookie. Wow, these are really good chocolate chip cookies. Try one of these. Guy picks up the second cookie. He's like, oh man, these are great. Does your wife bake these? I bake them. I bake all the cookies. Tries the next cookie. It's really great. Wow, you should be selling cookies. This is amazing. I can't believe you're giving it away for free. And then tries the last cookie. Try this one. It's like, it tastes like dog shit. Do you want to buy a toothbrush?
That guy's losing money because he's got to put all the money into making the cookies.
Do you want to buy a toothbrush?
So is he breaking even?
No, because he's selling the toothbrush at a premium. First of all,
yeah, but he doesn't make that money.
I hate you.
Right. But he's making a commission, right?
Oh, but he's making a huge commission.
Right, but the commission.
Well, no, he just has to, pay the toothbrushes back for their wholesale price.
But he's staying up all night making cookies.
He really is, Well, maybe he's not.
So it's like 4 cookies per toothbrush, right? Because you figure,
sure.
And then the shit, like that's that's kind of isn't that like against the law or something?
I said the 60s. Anything went, man. Anything went. As long as you were white, anything went. The first time I've heard that joke, and first, I make no apologies for my attempt at comedy.
Where would you not make apologies? Where would you not make apologies? On the Carnival Personnel podcast?
I'm Jacques.
And I'm embarrassed.
You're only embarrassed because you didn't hear the original telling of that joke. And first of all, had you heard it, it's told much better by our friend, John C. Taylor. The C is for Cornell, Social Security number 215. Anyways, but he, the first time I heard that joke, I want to say it was at least 20 minutes and 25 gripping minutes. And I mean, there's a lot of animation and body movement, kind of like, what was the precursor to the Blue Man Group? Like,
What, moment shows?
Yeah,
Moment shows and whatever it was.
A whole pantomiming routine he had. So, anyways, Joe, just before hits record on this podcast, because I'm a troglodyte who doesn't pay attention to words and numbers and things, congratulations are in order. Condolences?
Condolences. Yes. This is our 100th episode.
100 episodes of goodness.
We have made syndication. We can now be on. You can get us 5 days a week on WLVI TV 56. I'm Dale Dorman.
Oh, dude, that is fantastic. Seriously, 100 episodes of Carnival Personnel podcast of us sitting in the Lyceum yelling at each other over the president.
On tonight's episode, Jacques rails against Donald Trump, and Joe wants to hang himself.
Any Patriot talk in this episode?
Oh, only Patriot talk. That's tonight at 7 on WLVI 56.
Joe didn't want to tell me. I mean, he didn't keep it a secret because they're posted, and like last week he noted it's like, he titled last week's episode 99 Luft Balloons. But that didn't trigger me thinking, oh, the number 100 comes after 99. That means next week's episode is our 100th episode. So, and he was afraid if I didn't pick up the obvious clues of that I would want to do something grand and special. And just being here is grand and special.
Yes, you've learned well to set the bar extremely low when entering my house.
But I am. I'm excited. It's last. They said it would never last this long.
They said our podcast would never last. Well, all those people can just go kiss my ass, babe.
I got you. And when I say they, I mean Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, and our wives.
This is proof there is no God, because after every time you leave, I just pray to God that you'll, forget where I live or lose my number or forget that you have a podcast with me.
I could never forget the best 100 podcasts I've ever listened to. Probably spread out between Kill Montgomery, but no, I'm delighted.
What would you say would be your top 3 moments?
Top 3 moments
in our podcast.
The first time I heard the Welcome Back, Carter.
Oh yes, a classic.
The first time I heard that, maybe when our good friend Price is Right, came in, and man, I don't know, maybe honestly, the sideshow in which you just went over the board games that you have over there.
The game show board games.
Yeah. I mean, I might even go the game show when our buddy Rodney came in, because you were a blushing bride on her wedding day, just glowing throughout the episode.
Right. One of our several 2-parter episodes.
Seriously, because I do so much of the verbal diarrhea around here, the times that we are in the wheelhouse that you are completely passionate about. When we did we have a guest on who has the same love of animation, cartoons, or
Peter,
our good friend Peter. Only repeat guest.
I think so. Yeah, he came back for the Muppets as well.
Yeah, I mean, like high school, I'm the king of first dates. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna put hands down, because I had no idea it was in the realm of possibility when you hit me with the Welcome Back, Carter theme. That show being a cornerstone watershed moment of my youth and brought to life, and the hystericalness of that. But yeah, those are probably, off the top of my head,
I'm just scrolling down the list of available episodes. It only goes back to 2017. No, that's fine. I mean, it only goes back to November, number 27. Yeah, that's funny. Let's see. Yes, Carnival Personnel Christmas, the Star Wars Holiday Special.
That was fun. That was really fun.
What else? Let me. I really want to pull up my pants, and then I also want to pull up all of our. But it doesn't go that far back. That's unusual. All right.
Maybe you got to go to Podbean and.
Yeah, I just got to go to Podbean, but yeah, it just goes back to Christmas.
It's definitely not my favorite episode, but I think episode 4, Dairy's Issues, is the one we reference the most.
Oh gosh, yes. How can you not? We had Biff as a sideshow guest.
Yeah. Okay. So, Biff being here, by far, hands down, Biff is on the Mount Rushmore of Carnival Personnel sideshows along. Yeah, but him and Price, because these are people who we both know really well, whose favorite thing is talking shit about me, and it's really great. I mean, it is really great to have people who completely put you in check. But yeah.
Yeah, let's see what else. We had the National Lampoon Radio Hour sideshow.
I mean, that was just a half hour. That was just self-indulgent.
Yeah, Back to the Future, Ghostbusters,
that was all you.
Star Wars.
And those Ghostbusters, if we're doing a top 10 list, again, anything that's Joe-centric, anything that you go into the weeds with complete unabandoned pride and passion on, those make this incredulous journey from Lowell to Arlington worth it.
The Avengers, I'm just doing the sideshows because we all know that the regular episodes kind of suck. The Jerk, Warner Brothers cartoons with Peter, Late Night with Conan O'Brien, the Muppets with Peter, Mel Brooks, and we had touched on and then we had the first episode was about Adam West, the first sideshow.
Yeah.
And Jim, of course, our Jim's been our recurring. He's our unofficial Republican correspondent.
He's our senior white supremacist. He's our senior. No, and the funny thing is, one of the things I've loved best about this, and now this is spinning out of control into a self-indulgent thing. When Joe called, the whole idea was we were going to do Carnival Personnel and a weekly thing, and then Adam West passed, and Joe's like, instead of talking about during the show, this guy deserves an entire thing onto itself. And the sideshows, even the name of the sideshow of Carnival Personnel was Joe's brainchild. And that was just fun. I mean, the most fun about the show is the things that just happened that spun off different topics or that become recurring things, whether it's the self-indulgent theater that just simply started by you with your heartwarming Jimmy Stewart, It's a Wonderful Life rants.
Oh, yes. The self-indulgent theaters, yes. And we also had a lot of fun with don't forget Robert and his arcades.
Yes. Yeah, because when we started, we had, it's fun. It's been able to have, I'll jump to it later, that it looks like going to have the first 2019 Dan Cray and Beyond Id Show of the Year with our friend Dave Mirabella of The Rationales, who came over, our friend Tracy, who had the best clown stories from an actual working clown. Her story of having coffee accidentally on purpose thrown at her by the drive-thru attendant at 2 a.m. at Dunkin' Donuts, who she scared the shit out of, honestly, on the way home from a gig, and she completely forgot she was in the clown outfit. And she wasn't trying to intimidate the poor woman, but literally, I mean, those have been some really fun things. Yeah, then we went over to Robert's Arcade. I'm still a little disappointed because, Robert said, we should come back and do another show. And I think both you and I were hoping that Robert was going to let us do our show there from every week. But, well.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm just like blanking because I'm going to look at. I'm on the Podbean app now. We had a Phil Hartman episode. That
was great and tough.
Yes.
I think we were literally choked up doing our own episode.
Yeah, when I was talking about the segment on Saturday Night Live when they played a sketch with Phil Hartman and Jan Hooks dancing, and that was a heartbreaker. My video games, we did Airplane, Super Mario, Resident Evil.
Airplane was amazingly fun because as much as I've loved that movie my entire life, I think that might have been the first movie my dad took me to in a theater. I didn't know it was a shot-for-shot remake. Parody's not the right word. Not even homage.
No, it's not. They bought the script to 0 Hour, some 50s thriller about a plane.
1950. I want to say 1958 made for Canadian television movie.
Made for Canadian TV
Yeah.
in the 50s.
Huh. If it was only a way.
I believe you. Clowns.
I don't. I would check that.
TV theme songs. Then we had, Sully for trivia.
How did we forget? But seriously, having guests has been, and it's hard to say, oh, Sully was as good as Biff, but better than this, or no. Guests we haven't had a bad guest.
No, I mean, we recently had John on to talk about blackjack.
An actual person with documentaries, from real networks on the same subject that he came to your basement to talk to us about.
Tales from the Tour Bus.
Our friend Rich, who has partnered with Mike Judge on the Cinemax HBO show, Tales from the Tour Bus. We had our friend Jenna, who's an author, who's done literally ghostwritten 100 books, from some amazingly famous athletes to being Linda Resnick's speechwriter for a couple years.
We had Jonathan here from Arlington Community Media.
And I'm still a little bummed. I was outvoted for doing a
video version of this
show
of
the show with some sketches.
You were outvoted.
Maybe some music.
Me to you. Like, that's how you were outvoted.
Yeah,
right.
But who really controls the things here? Like
I know how to push the button.
And boy, do you ever.
Mm-hmm. We did the Castlevania one. We had Chris for Resident Evil.
Right.
Yeah. Sam for the Arrowverse.
Which one of the episodes which I loved doing, and how productive you were that day.
Right. Oh, yes. A lot of laundry was washed and folded. Well, let's see. We also did, we had Japan with Biff. Just going down the list, with the Avengers, we did a sideshow, and we finally did one about the namesake of the show, Carnival Personnel, The Jerk, and that went splendidly well, I might say so myself. We just we can't get enough of ourselves, is what I'm saying. We are our best audience. And our only audience, I think.
No, our wives can. Oh wait,
no, don't.
I'd take that off.
Yeah, I mean, and there's just so for the past 2 years, I think it's been a good run. I think this is a nice even number to end on.
So I see. On one hand, you set me up. Here you are talking about some of the best episodes, some of the things that you like. Oh, we did this and this, and you're smiling, which is always. When you smile, the world smiles with you. At the same time, it's a little scary. It's like, what's that on Joe's face? That's a smile.
Your killers don't come yelling and screaming. They come at you with smiles. They come as your friends.
And then I'm like, oh, you see, he's just talked himself into how great this has been. Let's do more. Let's get more guests. Let's go back to Arlington Access and revisit that. And then, whoop, it pulls the rug right out.
I don't remember ever saying, let's do any of that.
No, but it was implied. Like the enthusiasm in which you spoke of these things led me to believe, you see, he's talking himself into how great this has been. Zero Hour was adapted in 1956 by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation teleplay. So there was a made-for-TV version of
adaptation
in 1956 that later Paramount the next year did turn it into a movie. So originally there was a made-for-TV movie called Zero Hour. By the CBC.
They probably wiped the tape of that with like an Anne Murray special by now. Like it's probably just lost to history.
And then, and again, it was, and I think the reason I knew it was Canadian because I remember in Zero Hour they were flying from it wasn't like from Toronto to Calgary or from Montreal to. It was Winnipeg to Banff, like two cities that, unless you are a historian of the WHA and Junior A hockey in Canada, you would have never heard of Banff, Alberta. But I remember
Saskatoon or whatever. I just made that up.
No. Were you thinking Saskatchewan?
Well, Saskatchewan is a province.
Saskatoon, Saskatchewan is the home of one Gordie Howe.
That's what I was going for. Saskatoon.
And those are real places, folks.
Always learning on this fucking podcast.
Stuff that will never help anyone anywhere ever, as my life is evident of such. All right.
So that was our little retrospective on us. So happy 100. Here's to 0 more. That's the name of my new podcast, 0 more.
I couldn't be happier.
I couldn't be happier. Everything's fine.
Speaking of going back to the well, did you watch SNL this past week?
God freaking damn it. Yes, I did.
Thoughts?
Loved it. My phone's ringing and our friend Jim is calling. Sorry, Jim, you're going to have to wait.
So Adam Sandler really got to do the victory lap, like hero coming home, fuck you world.
The prodigal son returns.
It was great. It was absolutely the opening song and monologue, hands down the best.
Second best.
Okay.
Oh, well, so first of all, the episode opens with what you think is going to be, they're going to get William Barr, and who's going to play William Barr? And turns out, they've decided to ditch it and go with a Family Feud parody with the Avengers versus Game of Thrones, which was kind of lukewarm, but okay. I get why they put that up front first, because Beck Bennett had to wear that Thanos mask for, that takes a long time to take off and put on, so they were going to get all that stuff done right away. And then Adam Sandler comes on, 24 years since he's been on the show, since he was unceremoniously fired. How do I know he was fired? A, I live in America, and I was alive at the time when he was fired, and B, he sang a song about it.
It was the best. He explains how excited he is because his wife and his kids are here. His 5 years, I'm sorry, not live. And this is where you feel like an old fucking nothing loser when he's like, I started when I was 23. Fuck you.
Yeah.
So from 23, like 28, like he said, it was the 5 best years of his life, that he never was more productive. It was great. He's always talked about the best friends he's ever made were on the show, how wonderful it is. He loved it. And then one of his kids asked, well, then how come you stopped, being on the show?
I was fired.
And he does. He goes through the whole firing process. Who else was fired?
He tried calling Lauren, but he never called back. And it was a good moment. So that was good. Then they went into...
And then he wraps up the song by saying, and then I went on to do $4.5 billion at the box office, so I win.
Right. Chris Rock came on, made a little cameo. That was fun.
Hey, why did you stop doing the show?
Then Chris Rock joined in singing the song. He went to go to In Living Color, which was canceled 6 months later. I think either 6 months or 6 weeks. I forget what it was.
I think it was 6 weeks.
Yeah,
he got fired from SNL. Whatever happened to that guy?
Nothing.
Oh, I thought we would have heard.
They just fizzle away. I was hoping to see David Spade, but he's too cool for school.
Yeah.
No. But then they went into what was the next sketch? There was a sketch about Romano Tours. I've seen there is a real Romano Tours.
I don't know. There's been a couple times Adam Sandler, back in the day when he was on Saturday Night Live, and we've referenced this before. It was an after the second song by the musical act, last 20 minutes skit, and it was called "How Do You Get There?"
No, yeah, Where You Headed?
Where You Headed? And I'm like, unless you're from New England, because they were very specific. It was Adam Sandler, the construction worker guy. It was you can't get there from here.
That was the main
Bar
guy.
Harbor, Maine. And then the aristocratic knows the Kennedys,
Glenn
Cape
Close.
Cod.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And Kevin Nealon was the host.
and it was great. The Bar Harbor, Maine guy. How do you get from Kennebunkport, Maine to Hartford, Connecticut the quickly? Well, you can't get there from here.
And that was Phil Hartman.
And that was the great Phil Hartman. And so Adam Sandler, it was like, how do you get from Manchester, Connecticut to Providence, Rhode Island? And he's like, he names all the roads. Like,
Kid, you go down 95, and then when you get off the exit, you take a wicked left at the retarded kid selling fireworks.
how many Dunkin' Donuts with drive-thrus on the route? 6, and you gotta go through the one in Providence. There's a wicked fat kid running the drive-thru. and I always remember thinking, because he's like, well, first you get on Route 9, you need to cut through Framingham before you get on 9. And I'm like, dude, unless you lived in Framingham, you wouldn't know that that's a connecting route between.
And this is before Google Maps and MapQuest and all that.
And so when he does the travel thing, I'm like, oh my God, it's like that. Those commercials kept Channel 56 floating 3 years after most UHF channels failed. Like those Romano tour things.
No, I mean, they're still around now.
Oh, dear. Okay.
The Romano tours is it's going on like now. I didn't know they were on back in the day.
If you're an unhappy person
right
at home.
Right. I just want to reiterate that our tours are meant to show you happy places. You will not change and become a happy person if you are sad going into these happy places. The same person you are at home is going to be the same person you are on a gondola.
And one of the skits I liked, but I'm like, oh man, I've seen this skit. When he did the Sandler family reunion, they did the exact same skit with Jim Carrey, where all of his relatives were, his
right. They're all the cast members doing Jim Carrey impersonations to Jim Carrey
from different movies. The Dumb and Dumber guys, like. And the whole joke being, well, he didn't come up with these characters. He's just doing different.
I'm glad they did it.
I am too. And
you're never going to get Adam Sandler on again. This was it. So I'm glad. And it's just like there was one that was actually cut for time. The SNL posts on their app and also on their YouTube page. It was a taped segment called Chad's Journey, and Chad is played by Pete Davidson. He's sort of this nonplussed kind of like losery, not losery, he's just kind of like video game playing, go with the flow, kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever. And like all these horrific things are happening around Chad, but he's unfazed. And so he microwaves something in the microwave, and it has a fork in the bowl, and it sparks a fire, and the house blows up, and he dies, or he's knocked unconscious. He's about to die, and he's going to cross over, but first there's an angel there that's going to introduce him to somebody that he's been meaning to, connect with for the longest time, and it's his dad, played by Adam Sandler. And so Adam Sandler is playing the same kind of nonplussed, like, hey, what's up, dude? Yeah, and like the angel's like really trying to like get them to bond. It's like, here's a glove and a ball. Maybe you two can catch up on lost time. And they're just like, throwing the ball. Adam Sandler throws the ball to Pete Davidson or to Chad while the angel is explaining the situation, and it hits him square in the face. It's like, you have to wait till he's ready. He wasn't ready. And then Chad throws the ball back to his dad, but it sails over his head. And the angel is still trying to get them to grasp the gravity of the situation, of how they're connecting over, so many decades of not seeing each other. And, Adam Sandler, the dad, goes to fetch the ball in the bushes. It's like, Brad, what are you doing? Come back here. The ball. It's like, no. Forget the ball. You have to talk to your son.
I will watch that.
It's on the YouTube channel.
Is that a recurring Pete Davidson character?
It's like, I've seen another one. There might be a third.
There's one where he's on a couch and a serial killer is like, I'm going to come and kill him.
Cool. Yeah, that's okay. Chad.
I think, Pete Davidson was also on the opening I Got Fired skit. He comes out and he starts singing, I got fired. He's like, no, you used to work here. You haven't been fired. And then Pete Davidson's like, how is that possible?
Right. Pete Davidson's a funny guy. By the way, listen to the Pete Davidson, Mark Maron, What the Fuck podcast. That's a good one, too.
Well, what? Pete Davidson was just on a show. Now we're going off the rails. Surprise. First time in 100 episodes we've done that. He was on not Jimmy Kimmel. He was on the NBC one.
Seth Meyers?
No.
Oh, Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. and it was like a truth or dare type thing, and you had to guess if he was telling the truth. And I can't remember who the third person was, but it was three of them. And he's like, my first season on Saturday Night Live, I went on vacation with Lorne Michaels to Jamaica. And they're like, no, that's got to be false. And it was true. And they're like, I worked on the show for 7 years. I never had lunch with Lauren. What do you mean you went to Jamaica with Lorne Michaels? And he's like, yeah, he's like, it was the first season. And it's like, Pete Davidson's like, I don't know, dude. It's like the first season. It's like, I'm working late. He's like, hey, I'm flying to Jamaica tonight. You want to join? Okay.
So Chad is Pete Davidson.
Right.
And Pete Davidson is Chad.
So, and did the Chris Farley song get you?
It did get me a little bit. It got me more when I first saw it in his 100% Fresh Netflix special and it's great because all these people are like, this is an amazing song. Thank you, for showing this, for sharing this with America. And it's like, he's already shared this. If you had just watched the special, right. But I mean, I get it. And it was fucking the best. And I called that when Jim and I were texting back and forth. By the way, Jim fell asleep before Adam Sandler's SNL came on, even though he was more hyped about Adam Sandler coming back to SNL than I was. Don't get me wrong, I wanted to see it, but he was just like, you going to watch tonight? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what do you think they're going to do? And I go, well, I bet you they'll do like an Opera Man, and they'll do...
Opera Man was great.
And they'll probably do a Farley thing. And I thought that, I thought that was going to be a William Bauer sketch, but that didn't happen. But, yeah, the SNL tribute to Farley was just fantastic. Hit me in the feels, but the Opera Man thing was just... Yeah, it made the whole thing. And then there was that I think it was the, like, second to last sketch where Adam Sandler's like playing like a scummy barfly character with Kate McKinnon's scummy barfly character.
CDC, I like to report 3 new diseases.
And then Kristen Wiig comes in, and Kenan Thompson's the bartender. Just like, every time he cuts back to him, he's doing something something new to react to the situation.
Like he has his head is in a mini garage, and he shuts the garage
right
because they are so over the top, disgusting.
Open mouth kissing with spaghetti and doing the Lady and the Tramp thing. A 3-way Lady and the Tramp.
And they're all like talking about their diseases.
And Kate McKinnon does not break until this sketch.
Oh.
She could not.
So gross and awesome.
She open mouth kissed Kristen Wiig and Adam Sandler. And not
open mouth kiss. There was a lot of licking.
Yes, all right. Right. I use the word kiss loosely.
I will have to verify this. I believe that when Adam Sandler was negotiating, he says, "Okay, I'll do it, but I have to sing in 2/3 of the sketches that I'm in."
Yeah, so that was good, and. Yeah, there was just too much SNL.
Triumphant return. It was just great. And it's like, and I was trying to explain to management, and we've talked about it, the whole, when Michael Jordan got inducted to the Hall of Fame, and his whole induction speech is, fuck everybody who, his high school basketball coach who invited, who was there and cut him. And he went down the list.
Wow.
And it wasn't bitter like that. But he was like, this was the best thing in my life. You fired me. I went on to be a huge success. I'm back here now, motherfuckers. And I loved it.
Yes, it was a good time for all. And he's got a new movie coming out on Netflix with Jennifer Aniston.
Was it during Opera Man?
Yes.
That he pointed out, like, he was talking about some movie?
Seth Rogen's doing a movie called The Long Shot with Charlize Theron where he plays her boyfriend. And he says, and then Opera Man says something to the effect of, pretty girl, dopey face, where have I seen this before? And then it cuts to like 4 different...
panel of, right.
Yeah, a panel of different Adam Sandler movies with him with,
chicks 10 times hotter. He'd
yes.
never get in real life.
Right.
Well, he would because he's rich and he's Adam Sandler, but his character is like...
Yeah, with Kate Beckinsale and Drew Barrymore and I think Charlize Theron, maybe.
And Drew Barrymore 2 more times. I think they did like 5.
I think they did 5 movies. They're like the Judy and Mickey of the 90s and 2000s.
Oh,
2000s,
no. I'm trying to think of who that reference is. Judy and Mickey.
Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney.
Right. And it was making me think there was another movie based on, anyways, I'm just stupid.
All right.
So Joe surprised me with a nice find today a gift for me that will reside in the Lyceum. It's not on the rundown. Stop looking for it. The Steve Martin album that you stole from Savers for $4. Mm-hmm. And
The Wild and Crazy Guy album.
with a centerfold of one very hairy chest banjo playing Steve Martin.
Is there any other Steve Martin?
Not that I want to know. And I, to segue into the next talking point, bestowed I think a pretty impressive gift on you for the Lyceum today.
Right, you got me a limited edition action figure. It's the Spidey after the Infinity War Spidey, and it's just a bag of dust. And it says right on it, kids, be careful, bag of dust.
I got that for Joe. You know, those who've listened to last week's podcast, 99 Left Balloons, 99 comes right before 100, and this is 100 podcast. Go figure that last Sunday was National Comic Book Day. And Saturday was. And so, so it was great. And we went, and that's where I got it. And
I can't ever be, I'll be forever in your debt.
And so we're talking about the Spidey-Man trailer, and I don't watch trailers, and I hope you haven't seen the Spider-Man trailer.
No, because Tom Holland at the beginning of the trailer warned me to not watch it if I haven't watched Endgame, because there are spoilers in the trailer for Far From Home.
The funny thing about that is the kid who plays Spider-Man, Tom Holland.
I just said it.
I know, and I wrote it down, and I still can't remember him. Chadwick Boseman. He, when he was doing the press for Infinity War, kept talking spoilers on all the, like he was in England and gave away a huge spoiler. And then, the people over at Marvel is like, okay, we need this kid out doing the press junkets, but he can't go it alone. And they end up like making Mark Ruffalo go on all the shows.
It's like having your lawyer go on with you with Good Morning America.
So the irony that he has to do a spoiler alert in front of his trailer.
They should have had Gilbert Gottfried go on so they could just yell before Tom Holland speaks, "Spoiler alert!
Redacted!" So I have not seen the trailer, even though I know what happens in Infinity War because Endgame. Well, Infinity War, Endgame. I think that's the whole hyphen. Is that the #1 movie yet?
It beat Titanic as far as money making goes.
So it's just behind Avatar.
Yeah, I think Avatar is the only hurdle left to hurdle.
I think it probably, hopefully, will pass it this week.
Let's blaze through this.
Yeah.
Because we took up so much fucking time talking about ourselves at the top of the show.
All right, we'll blow through this.
Lucky this.
I don't. Ho. So we. I don't know how I fell down this rabbit hole. I sent it to Joe this week. Did you know about Woody Harrelson's dad?
No.
Were you just, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, blown away that his father was a hitman, an actual hitman?
It was crazy.
The first, his father, one of his many murders, and they weren't like, he wasn't this deranged killer, killing because the neighbor's dog told him to. I mean, he was a hitman. And the first assassination of a federal judge in the 20th century was done by his dad. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's 5 different murders that they know of that he's been tried and convicted on, but they think there's a lot more. And that's Woody from Cheers, everybody.
I wonder if he got the far side.
And have you heard the latest douchebaggery thing coming out of the state of Rhode Island this week with school lunches?
Yeah, yes, but you tell the audience.
Well, long story short, there's Rhode Island is a very poor, state, in general. It's a smaller state, but, in a certain school district in the Providence area, they decided they're going to publicly shame children who have delinquent accounts in the school lunch ledger, where basically it's a scarlet letter thing they can only get a PB&J sandwich for lunch. That's it. Here's a cup of water. Here's a PB&J sandwich. I think it's on a different color tray so everybody knows. And there was a local woman who was so aghast by this, actually went to the school system and said, total up everything that every child owes. I'm going to pay it. And it's only like $4,000. And she's like, here's a check. And the school's like, no, we want those families to pay their own debts. Like, okay, so these children are going hungry. They're from an impoverished, section. Their parents probably can't pay the $10 for school lunches they owe. And instead of letting first of all, why are you fucking charging for school lunches? Period. The end.
They've always charged.
I know. You know what? In Lowell, they don't. And
because they're poor.
Yeah, but and it's like we didn't know that when we got there. And
you know why Rhode Island is cutting off these
because they're broke.
Because they're fucking broke. They don't want this woman to pay their bar tab and then have them go back to that's how many premium meals that they're saving by serving these kids PB&J.
Right. Let these 7-year-olds pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. When I was 7 years old, but I mean, it's just such a fucking awful thing that this is where we are, and even when somebody wants to swoop in. No, I mean, I remember the first time I was picking up one of my kids at school, and I saw this, and I was like, it broke my heart, and I was happy at the same time. As kids are leaving, there's two lines, kids are going out to the bus or out to the pickup area, and they go by this huge bin where, here's a teacher or an aide handing certain kids like bags of groceries. That's what they're eating that weekend, and I'm like, oh my God, how do I get involved? Like is it a food pantry thing? Is it a donation thing? Like how, because I saw it and I'm like, okay, I didn't know this was a thing and this was happening, and it's great. At the same time, it kills you, I mean, this is, anyways, but fuck you, Rhode Island.
Yeah. That's what schools are supposed to do. That's what they're supposed to do. And I take care of my kids.
I've never been to prison.
What, you want a cookie?
Whatever happened to that guy? So, segueing into something a little awful, 2 school shootings this week, and now the new debate.
Just 2?
Sadly, it's just 2. And in both cases, it's hard to say. Like, they're lauding kids who rushed the gunman, and in both cases, in one school, 2 kids rushed a gunman, one of the 2 died, and in one case, 1 kid rushed a gunman, and he died. But they're saying because of this act of bravery, they saved they saved so many other deaths and students. And it's like, he died a hero. It's like,
this is bullshit. I fucking hate having to honor heroes in school shootings because they're usually either dead or they're involved in a fucking school shooting. Like, this shouldn't be a thing. They interviewed a 12-year-old kid on CNN recently about the last school shooting. And he was on television with his dad. I think he's an 8-year-old. Maybe he's 8. Or maybe he's 12 or 8. I forget. And he was standing, I guess, in his classroom with his hand on an aluminum bat, like ready to fight in case the gunman entered his classroom.
This week, the topic had changed on the TV and on the radio. It didn't become, there was a school shooting, let's get rid of guns. There was a school shooting the other side of the fence. There was a school shooting, let's arm the teachers. This week, the whole topic was, do you teach your kid to hide or do you teach your kid to rush them? It's like, and I had this talk with management. I'm taking a step back. So we went to Disney almost every week. There was this great Jedi show. I remember our littlest one is 3. He's 2.5, maybe 3. His brother, this Darth Vader creed got the stop. The Jedi show would start. A Jedi would come out, pick kids from the crowd, give them a lightsaber. There'd be 20 kids out there and 2 Jedi Padawans, 3 Jedi Padawans helping the 20 kids learn this choreographed, left, right, duck, left leg, right leg, duck, go for the head. And they practice that for like 4 minutes in unison, a lot of jokes in between. Then out of nowhere, the stage would rise. Darth Vader would come up. The Jedi would say, "You're outnumbered." And out of nowhere, the smoke would come out, and Darth Maul would do a backflip off the stage, scare all the kids and the people. It was ooh and ah. Then they divide the kids, and half the line, one at a time, would fight Darth Vader, half would fight Darth Maul, and do their little choreographed thing. It was great. It was mesmerizing. Best memories I had at Disney. Wife is sitting there, and we're right up in front. The little guy is 2.5. I don't think he's 3. I remember this day because I see the picture all the time. He's wearing a Hulk outfit, and we always carry lightsabers. In between fighting the kids who got picked for the show, Darth Maul would walk around the perimeter and like juke his shoulder like he's going to rush him in, and little kids would jump back and it would scare people, but it was all fun. And I remember he locked eyes with my little guy, and he did that, and he was like 20 feet away. In the most impressive feat or athleticism I've seen from my wife ever, she jumped and lunged and barely got our little guy by the nape of the outfit. And he is running so fast, he's almost literally breaking out of his Hulk outfit, irony, to go rush the Darth Maul character, because Darth Maul gave it that and juked at him. And instead of my 2.5-year-old recoiling in horror, it was on, bitch. And I mean, and I'm saying this jokingly. Flash forward to now. My kids have done nothing athletic, team sports, other than boxing and jiu-jitsu. They live for superhero movies. They live for... My biggest fear is, I've taught them and I've raised them to walk away from a fight. The more you know, you try to talk it out, and if that doesn't work, walk it out. There's no... And I do. My wife and I have had this now fear talk. It's like... They're named after superheroes. We are obsessed with wearing costumes. If that ever happened, I have the biggest fear is, oh, fuck, I've trained my kids to think, well, I've seen every Batman movie ever. I'm going to throw the desk up, so when he looks up, I'm going to tackle him low, and I'll disarm him. I'll put him into an armbar and save the day. And my biggest fear is instinctively... That's how one of my 2 kids is. I mean, my biggest fear is that, something like this happens, and whether that's how they are or I've programmed that accidentally. In a million years, when he was 2, I never thought, well, I'm going to put him in boxing and jiu-jitsu, so if he has a school thing, he's going to feel emboldened to rush somebody. And now, as I hear these debates this week, it's like, look at this hero. It's like, no, I don't want to look at a hero.
I think they're just looking for any sort of beacon of light, not in this fog that we live in this country with the fucking gun violence. And I get it, but at the same time, I don't get it, and I wish it would stop. But 4 more years. 4 more years.
So, before we get on to 4 more years,
I don't want to get on to 4 more years. I want to move on to the defunct sponsor as fast as possible.
We're going to get there very soon. But
when do we get to the fireworks factory?
Until before we get to the 4 more years, like This Week in Tyranny, and it's not that funny anymore because we've been talking about that. People have been talking about that in the background. Look, I remember people saying George Bush is going to start another war at the end of his presidency so he can use that as an excuse to stay in power. I remember the people on the right saying the same thing about Obama like the last 2 years. It's like he's going to, invade Guam because, he's going to try to stay in power. In the last week, Donald J. Trump has actually said what people on Fox News have been saying, what people on Breitbart have been saying, what the Alex Joneses have been saying. He feels he is owed 2 more years of his first term because of the 2 years he lost because of the Mueller investigation, which has completely exonerated him. It's completely exonerated him. But it's detracted from his first 2 years. And even Nancy Pelosi this week has said, I'm afraid that he will not turn over power unless we win the presidency or the House or the Senate by a landslide. He last time he said 5 million people voted illegally. You have to win by 10 million, 20 million votes for him to hand over power. And he's even saying that. And again, this Week in Tyranny, new segment, they just revoked 21 White House press credentials to New York Times, legit career five administration long journalists covering the White House, they just revoked their press passes this week. So, you just go down the list. He says he's going to exert executive power and not let Mueller testify, or the unredacted thing. Well, if you're not hiding anything, why are you doing it? And what fucking dystopian North Korea, Soviet Union world are we now living in, where the president can say, I'm using presidential power to keep you from seeing an investigation from an independent counsel about me? Like, I'm choosing, okay, here's the investigation, but you don't get to see it because I'm president. You don't get to know any of this. But I think, and I've been saying this for a couple of years, I think the end is nigh as far as Robert Mueller is going to be a private citizen within the next couple of weeks. You cannot. And the other thing he wants, what was interesting this week is on the heels of him saying he's completely exonerated, and Mitch McConnell saying it's a dead issue, it's over, we will never investigate, we will never bring up the Mueller investigation. Of all things, a Republican GOP person subpoenaed Don Jr. to come to Senate and to testify. A GOP, which that's the first time that somebody's gone from tweeting out, a Republican tweeting out, I disagree with him saying there are fine people on both sides. We're not going to stand for that. What are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to have lunch. Maybe a PB&J down at the elementary school in Rhode Island. I hear they're delicious and free. But yeah, so that's interesting that, a GOP person has done that. But within the next couple of weeks, Robert Mueller is a private citizen, and you can't keep him from coming in. I'm done. Enough awful. Let's get back to talking about that Steve Martin album you got me.
It has even a press photo in there that says "Best Fishes, Steve Martin,"
and he's wearing a white suit
and with a fish on it or something.
No, it's fish sticking out of it.
Oh, fish sticking out of it. Oh.
And on the back of that,
that card, yeah,
with his routine.
Oh yeah, the notes.
The notes for it.
Yeah, I haven't taken a good look at it, but I will later. I will later.
Yeah, so we got congratulations to ourselves. Mm-hmm. Adam Sandler's awesome on Saturday Night Live. Donald Trump still sucks.
This is the last episode of the podcast.
Nice try, but this is a defunct sponsor.
Bobby Orr. I made a lot of moves in my day. The best move I ever made to the Bay Bank card. Now with Express Check. It's the bank card that works like a check. Shouldn't you make your move to Bay Bank?
Joe, today is the 49th anniversary of what some consider the greatest goal in National Hockey League history.
Yeah. The Bobby Orr goal?
Biff was saying that it's an overrated goal today on, maybe it was even Ruger. But I get it. Like, it's one of those things. The still image is, I think, the most iconic image in the history of the NHL. The whole play is amazing. It's an overtime goal. That goal won the Stanley Cup. That goal won the Stanley Cup. The Bruins had gone, that was 70. And I think 48 was the last time they won the Stanley Cup. Do you want me to go down the roster of the 48 Bruins with the Kraut line? Anyways, but it broke this incredible drought. At the time, considered the greatest hockey player of all time. I still, and many people still consider the greatest hockey player of all time. An iconic moment. He's playing the St. Louis Blues. They're trying to clear the puck. Bobby Orr pinches on the right-hand board, keeps the puck in. Passes it to number 16, probably one of my all-time favorite Bruins, Derek Turk Sanderson, who's in the in the actually left-hand corner, and he hits him or breaks right to the net. Perfect give-and-go pass. Bobby Orr, as Bobby Orr is jumping to celebrate, the defenseman, Pritchard, lifts his stick. Is basically not trying to trip him or hold him, but he's trying to impede his progress. But the timing of it and the perfect picture of Bobby Orr being 3 feet off the ice, perfectly horizontal, the look of we just won the Stanley Cup. It's not an I, it's a we won the Stanley Cup. And so for the people who want to say, well, it's really not the greatest goal. Yeah, that was an overtime of Game 4 of a sweep. St. Louis Blues were an expansion team only in the league. And the way it used to work is like, okay, here's these 6 new teams. Here's these 6 original NHL teams. And the Stanley Cup's going to come down to one of these 6 original NHL teams and one of these new teams that's going to be a punching bag.
And the mother-in-law.
And that's exactly, I mean, that's why, like, you know, even Bobby Orr and everybody had said the series before that getting to it was the real Stanley Cup. You know, the next year it was the same thing. They lost to the, to the Montreal Canadiens, who were the team of the 70s, young Ken Dryden. But then the Bruins won the Cup that following year, again beating the St. Louis Blues. So
St. Louis has taken
sweep.
St. Louis has a history of taking drubbings from New England teams.
They really have. I mean, that's
2 World Series, the Rams twice. I mean, it was just,
you know,
St. Louis,
Nathan Johnson, you know, and I was fighting, you know, like, are you going to get this? Say that or it's me? So yeah, it's the 49th anniversary. And I'm bringing it up because the Bees are in the playoffs. As we are doing this podcast, the Bees are up 1-0 against Carolina. They got a game Sunday.
at 1?
3.
Oh, 3.
Yeah, it's a weird.
And I guess Rask does not do well during day games.
And it's also funny because they had to move the schedule around. They have to, instead of playing Tuesday, Saturday, they're making it Sunday so that they can play Tuesday, Thursday in Carolina, because their home rink on Monday is
melting.
An ophthalmology convention. like when they were making the schedule, they're like, yeah, the Canes aren't going to be playing in late May. Let's go ahead and schedule this out. I mean, I remember a couple years, like, there's either a weird NBA scheduling thing, or maybe it's in a Western Conference game that they just had they couldn't play every other day. They had to skip a day because of a Cher concert was like pre-booked out at the rink or something like that. So it happens, but
I bet they would change the schedule if they could turn back time.
And
I'll show myself how.
This is why I love you. This is why I'm looking forward to the next 100, Joseph. Looking forward to the next. Hey, do you want to buy a toothbrush? Anyways.
You want to see my impression of the Native American crying at the...
Fun fact, Italian.
Yep.
You know?
Is it a fun fact?
Well, actually, it is. See, don't do this. Like, recently, people are like, oh, he's not even Native American, blah, blah, blah. He lived on a reservation. I don't want to say it was upset. You know, he became as Native American as you can, the plight of him, all this stuff. But yeah, long story short, too late.
By the way, he's acting.
He's what?
Acting. Thank you.
So the Red Sox went to the White House this week. Bring us up to speed on your takeaways.
So I heard that the White House put out a little, they put out their daily press releases of what goes on at the White House. And they welcomed the 2019 World Series champion Red Sox. SOCKS. To which Jimmy Kimmel, on his monologue, said, I hate to see what happens. Oh, I would hope that Courtney Cox doesn't get invited to the White House. And I butchered that, and I suck, and I want to die.
100 episodes more to go, folks. And so so what was really funny, the other big takeaway other than that is like, and seriously, that's such a George Mr. Burns out of touch local sports team doing moment, is a lot of people are like, it was the Red Sox, but really it was kind of the White Sox.
Awful lot of honkies in that band of merry men who visited the White House. And only white guys. Only the white players. Was it all the white players or just white players? I mean, I knew it was just white players. Was there a white person that did not attend?
Well,
we'll never know.
Dustin Pedroia, who has a World Cup. I mean, he's a World Series. He's probably my third, fourth favorite Red Sox of all time. But he last year played like 2, maybe. I don't think he played 10 games injured in the early season. And right now he's on a rehab stint with their minor league team, so he wasn't even there. So he didn't go. But yeah, the manager, Alex Cora, Puerto Rican, Sandoval, who's Mexican, publicly said, it's like, yeah, you threw paper towels. Your solution to Puerto Rico's probably was throwing paper towels at people. And Sandoval's like, yeah, we're all a bunch of rapists coming here with disease to take your job, so I'm not coming.
And do you think Donald Trump shed any tears?
Well, he usually does. Because honestly, so with all the minority players and coaches not going, Mookie Betts, league MVP. It was all the star players. And when star players from the Philadelphia, it was surprising because people were like, are they going to cancel this? Because usually when players, be it the Golden State Warriors or, the Philadelphia Eagles have said, yeah, I'm not coming or I'm not coming. All it takes is 2 or 3 big name players to say they're not coming and they cancel it. Here he did not cancel it. And a lot of people were, it was interesting because I don't know nationally if it became a story, but here it was almost a story for a day, but nobody really cared. People like, well, Tom Warner, as team owner, should he go because, he's an old rich white guy and all of, the Latinos, the minority players on the team aren't going. And if you're going to want a contract negotiation with these guys in a year or 2 years, is this going to be divisive? I really, at this point, I don't think anyone gives a fuck.
Nope, nobody cares. It's normal.
But it is funny to see. It's like the press photo of him holding up the Red Sox jersey that says Trump on the back, and it's like, oh, is this the 1948 pre-integration Red Sox? Because as we always say.
What do we always say?
Awful lot of honkies.
Yeah.
So that was it, and it did. Nobody cared here. People are more. It upsets me as a Boston sports fan. The Celtics self-imploded this year. Their big star Kyrie Irving was a complete asshole from beginning to end. They got blown out in the second round. They were expected to make the NBA Finals this year, and the media is obsessed with this. It's like the ratings came out. Like the Celtics had game 3 the same night, or the Celtics, I think the last round could have closed out round 1 the same night that the Bruins could close out round 1, or it was a game 1 of round 2, or the Bruins. Either way, playoff games, both big games. The Bruins had like a 14-9 rating. The Celtics had like a 6. The Red Sox had like a 2. It's like, who the fuck is watching, a 500 place Red Sox or 500, winning team? Like they're like 18-18, 38 games into the season with another 406 to go. But the Bruins,
probably their parents,
probably, yeah, it's just the white ones. Probably had twice. The Bruins had twice the rating. But yet the media here, the talk radio, it's all about Kyrie Irving is an asshole. Yeah, he's a great player. Let's get him out of town. And, the Bruins won.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that Boston's racist because that would piss you off.
No, because they were also, the coach is under fire.
Right. I mean,
Gordon Hayward, who's a white player. But the big thing is Kyrie Irving, he was a huge trade 2 years ago. I mean, a huge trade. You gave up the farm to get him. He had 2 years left on his contract at the beginning of the season. He said he really wants to stay. He was injured during the season a lot, and the Celtics had a winning record without him, losing record with him. Last year, he was hurt for the playoffs, and the Celtics went to Game 7. They went in with a 1 or 2 point lead, went into the fourth quarter against LeBron, Game 7 last year, without Kyrie Irving playing in the playoffs. This year, LeBron went to the Lakers, and everyone's like, okay, if you got to Game 7 of the conference finals without Kyrie, and LeBron's now in the other conference, the Celtics are going to win at least 60 games. They won 58 last year. They won 60, 61, 62 games this year. They're going to get to the NBA Finals, and they were a fourth-place team, losing record with Kyrie. All season long, he's been like, you people don't get it. We just flip the switch. It doesn't matter where you are in the playoffs. It's like, we're going to turn it on. And, they won round 1 pretty easy. They won game 1
by like 23 or 30 or something.
On the road, and then lose the next 4, buried by 20 points each. And he was like, seriously, he was 30% shooting, throughout the playoffs, and then gets mad at the media saying, "What happened? When I thought the switch was hit, and now it's like." No, it's not. It's not a race thing at all because, like I said, I mean, it's like, no, I'm not even getting into it. But the Bruins hopefully bring us a third parade since, October to June.
February. Yeah.
So, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. Yeah, that would be 3 parades in 9 months. And this is why people hate us. This is why people hate us. And let's see, did I have anything else? Oh, little thing about the Patriots-ish. So this week, Tom Brady goes to the Kentucky Derby every year. And what's great is like Belichick goes, Matt Castle, his all backup, like they all fly on the same private plane together. And the whole story is like all these great photos of them wearing their goofy, we're at the Kentucky Derby, Edelman and all these other guys. It's like, yeah, they really look like they still hate each other, and then 3 days later, does your management give a fuck about the Met Gala?
Maybe she would, but I think she was busy with school to really kind of care about the Met Gala. This year, I guess every year they have a theme for the Met Gala, which is like the big fashion thing in New York.
I think this year it was waste.
Yes. This year it was camp, so everybody dressed up in their campiness. Katy Perry dressed up as a hamburger, which kind of it was weird. It would, like, some people took it to, oh, it's Halloween time now. Let's dress up, that way. And others like Tom Brady and Giselle were like, yeah, that's nice. We're just gonna look great and walk the red carpet and make an appearance and go spend millions of dollars and fuck each other.
And scene. All right, that wraps up in sports.
Woo!
Anything that now flows fair part of the week. What is going on in video game world, Joe?
I don't know. This week I've been spending a lot of quality time in the basement because my wife was busy with finishing up her grading and everything, and she was, when she's grading or doing anything on her computer that's work related, of course she has to do it in the living room so that she can watch her stories while she's grading. And when she does that, I'm not watching her stories. I come down to the basement and cry. I mean, watch TV and play video games. So I was watching the games. I was watching the Bruins and the Celtics. Actually, yeah, I was Mr. Sports this week. Go figure. Also playing old school video games on my TV. And did I mention crying?
Well, let's get to the good stuff. What were you crying over? What video games?
What was I playing? Just a mishmash of old Nintendo games, like Little Nemo Dream Master.
Were you on the system or an emulator?
On an emulator. I have an emulator built into the Wii, which is great because the Wii outputs to an old
something does it around here. Sorry, the Wii outputs. Do you want to hear a joke?
The Wii connects to an old school TV like this. Right in front, you can see where it's connected. So it emulates just like a regular Nintendo would on an old tube TV. So it plays nicely. And I also, thanks to the latest iteration of those little mini consoles that Nintendo put out, those throwback consoles, they have these genuine Super Nintendo controllers that hook up to the old Wii controller as well. Like they have the same connection. So you can use it to play like games on the Wii that use these
it's
old.
Funny how outdated this seems.
I know, right? That's how quaint with 8 buttons.
Right. And it's not
bulky.
Takes 2 hands. And
right. There's no analog.
Vibrate when you get hit.
There's no. Well,
Hello.
It doesn't have an analog stick. How droll. So yeah, I don't know. I'm wasting a lot of time. Yeah, and I'm really. I guess I'm getting a little bit more introspective and looking around and saying, do I need all this?
Yes.
What is this all
it's
about?
Looking at me as she says that.
What am I doing with my life? The answer is nothing. Absolutely nothing. So video games, what do you want to talk about?
Well, before I do the random video game review of the week, just wanted to see if there's a new game on the horizon, any video game news I don't know about. If we want to talk about the notebook and pen I handed you when I walked in as you were assaulted by my 2 sons giving you their latest insights on Cuphead.
Right, and now I have yet to complete Cuphead. I have the boss rush at the end, and then there's the final boss, the devil, which I have not gotten to yet.
My question to you about Cuphead, as it relates to my two little guys telling you what level they're on and how they beat this level. My question to you is, how did you listen and take in all their strategy and input without telling them you don't give a fuck? Because
I do give a fuck.
Okay, see,
They're
that's
actually
okay.
doling out strategy that I could probably apply in my gameplay.
Like, so remember, it's like, when I would play, my dad would say, "Hey, let's go outside. We're going to play hide and go fuck yourself." You thought Pabbletine was a hide and seek champion.
Episode 100, Daddy Issues, Part 2.
All right.
So Jacques walking over to the game wall and going to pull out a Nintendo game for the 100th time. Make it a good one.
Well, I took out one. This is the first time I took one out. It became Jacob. Look, somehow. It was a load-bearing game.
Yep. So let's see. It's, I think, an L game. Is it?
We're going another one. I think we've had.
Oh, okay.
I think we've had this.
All right. So strike that. Reverse it. In the meantime, just listen to me eat M&Ms.
This one I don't believe we've done.
Okay. So now he's pulled out.
Like me going through the high school yearbook. It's fine.
Oh.
Hard to find one we haven't done.
Okay. Is it Ghosts and Goblins?
It is Ghost and Goblins.
Man, this game is a motherfucker. One of the hardest games on the system, if not the hardest game on the system. This is a port of the arcade classic, Ghouls and Ghosts, and it's you play as Sir Arthur or Arthur, and you're a knight. In olden times, the story is that you and I think the princess are having a picnic, and then all of a sudden the devil comes in and swoops up your date and takes her away to a faraway castle, I believe, and you have to go and get her by going through 6 arduous levels that will make you invent swear words when you play it. This game sucks to play. I mean, hardcore gamers, like hardcore NES fans, will love this game because it's a challenge. There's been multiple YouTube videos made about the difficulty and the struggle in getting this game and beating it. It's like also like early-ish Nintendo and it's early Capcom. So they're like just getting their bearings as to like how to program for the system, and the controls are a little wonky, but it's brutal. It's just like 2-hit deaths. There's multiple or unlimited continues, so that's kind of the one thing that keeps people playing. But it is just brutal. Like you could spend hours playing this game, and then when you finally beat the devil, it hits you with a message saying that was an illusion. You have to play this game a second time. So you have to go through the same 6 levels, only it's just a slight bit harder. And then you have to beat the devil again, and then you get the true ending. So fuck this game in its dirty asshole, is what I'm telling you. Ghosts and Goblins can eat a shit burger. No, wait, it is the shit burger that anybody who plays it can eat.
I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
You eat shit for breakfast? Ghosts and Goblins, 3 stars, as rated by Pat Contry in his book Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the NES Library. As Arthur the Knight, the player battles it out with zombies, demons, ghosts, and yes, goblins, as he tries to rescue the princess. Arthur is armed with a throwing lance, but can also obtain other projectile weapons via vases with certain advantages.
I believe it's vases.
Right. Mom said don't play ball in the house. With certain advantages, disadvantages, like a throwing knife, torches, axe, and a cross. This action is very frenetic, with multiple enemies who almost never let up and who constantly respawn. And it is a bitch.
I don't think Pat Country is saying it's a bitch. I think that's you. And I believe you.
He says, I don't begrudge a high level of difficulty. However, when it overshadows much of the rest of the game, as it does here, and becomes what the game is known for, the challenge it becomes much more of a glaring negative attribute than usual against positive ones, which I think is long form for biatch.
No. If you wasted money on your kid's college education and you were going to buy this, what would you be paying?
$0.00 because this game fucking pisses me off.
What would the rubes be paying?
Probably, I'm going to say $15.
Yeah, that's up there.
$21.
That's the cheapest I found. I was scrolling around. That is the cheapest.
Okay. Well, mine has in marker written on it Ian Hale. Does yours have Ian Hale? Is that guy?
Special limited Ian Hale version?
This is right. This is like the limited edition Spidey that I got.
I think this is the first time you've done a review and you're like, I fucking hate this game.
Game blows. I mean, it sucks you in, and then at some point it punches you right in the tit, like square in the nipple, and you just don't want to play it again. But then something calls you back. You know what? Maybe just one more.
Like an ex-girlfriend. Oh my God!
Stay mad at
she
you.
was fucking awful. She ruined my. Yeah, I'll go out again.
Yeah, right.
Good shit, big boobs. What? You said we were down here watching. Is there anything special? Redbox, Netflixy, YouTube, Red we should be watching?
What the hell? No, I haven't been streaming a whole lot. Just the playoffs and
the local sport team,
local sporting team. Yeah, I've been meaning to watch television, but you thought I was going to say something specific. Nope.
You're just saving up all that free time for the summer onslaught of game shows.
Oh God, yes, the Press Your Lucks and the Card Sharks. New episodes of $100,000 Pyramid. Oh, it's summer fun and games on ABC.
So this week we got out of the red box the Transformer movie Bumblebee. I think last summer's blockbuster.
Is it a blockbuster? No. I think Avengers was a blockbuster.
I think blockbuster. Fuck. I think Bumblebee is probably. I mean, there's Optimus Prime and Bumblebee are 1 and 1A as the most beloved Transformer. No, I think Optimus Prime is
the most beloved.
I think he's no, because Bumblebee is just people love Bumblebee. I mean, that's why they went with the Bumblebee story, and we love Bumblebee. Like it's always been, I think, the wife's favorite Transformer. You know, she was a big '80s Transformer cartoon, but really liked this movie is what I wanted to say. Awful. It hurt. There was nothing good about it.
Oh.
And the only good thing about it, I mean this, the only thing that the wife really liked, it was a period piece. She was on a period. It was in
Hickory Dicker.
Jack and Joe went up. They each had a quarter. Joe came down with 50 cents.
What up? Oh!
She really wanted to like it. The music was the one redeeming thing. I mean, it had, you know, her love of her life, Duran Duran. It had the Smiths. The movie at one point rickrolled you.
Oh my God!
You know, there was, I should have said spoiler. Can we rewind?
That's
fine. So the music was fun, you know, but the acting was not good. But at least the story was bad. You know, I mean, the CGI, it's a Transformer movie. It looks like Transformers, big robots beating up other robots. You know, John Cena looking all John Cena-y.
He's not going the way of The Rock now. Like Dwayne Johnson is a bona fide like action star, draws box office. Cena, I don't know.
Does he still wrestle? Is he done wrestling?
I think he's done. I think, and you know what? I don't know.
I mean, he'll always work. He will always be working in something. And yeah, but The Rock. I mean, I think he's the biggest non-Avenger, figure in the land. But yeah, it was really, really
disappointing.
It was awful. We also, did a 2-for-1. We finally watched Glass,
the sequel to Unbreakable and
Split.
And
as we talked before, Unbreakable, it's in the top 10 hero movies. I would put it. I mean, I think it's my favorite. I don't think there's a close second. It is my favorite M. Night movie, period, the end.
I actually did tear up at the end of Unbreakable. Well, like when he's spoilers, when Bruce Willis is, he learns he's a superhero and he defeats the enemy. And well, no, actually he doesn't defeat the enemy. Basically, he comes to terms with the fact that he is a superhero and his marriage was broken. His family was falling apart a bit. And he had a son who, was trying to reconnect with his dad. And then finally, at the end of the movie, the kid reads in a paper that an unknown superhero or an unknown hero saves somebody's life. And the kid always had a suspicion that his dad was a superhero, but
aren't all dads really superheroes, Joe?
No, I'm a piece of garbage. But Bruce Willis would never sort of let on that, or give into that, what, just because your dad's strong doesn't mean that he's a superhero. Just because your dad never gets sick doesn't mean he's a superhero. And then finally at the table, he passes the paper along to his kid, and his kid reads the headline, and Bruce Willis gives him like a knowing nod. And
it's an article
about this hero figure that saved somebody's life, and basically Bruce Willis says, "Yeah, that's me," and then the kid's wiping away tears as the mom's making breakfast, and I'm not crying, you're crying.
I loved that movie, and yeah, Sixth Sense was great. I didn't know. Spoiler: he was dead the whole time. I did not know that.
I did not know that.
It's great. So I saw Split. Maybe we rented it maybe 4 months ago. Disturbing. Like because when I saw when we saw the preview for Glass, we're like, who's this third guy? And I don't know how I missed it, but I missed that Split was 20 years later, almost 20 years later, the sequel to Unbreakable. And it was meant to be part 2 of a 3-parter. So this was the third part. And Samuel L. Jackson, tiny scene in Split, like just a one, almost like a
Nick Fury,
cameo. End of the credit, cameo type thing. And that's when you're like, McAvoy, the actor from Split. Is it McAvoy?
I think you're right.
That's the Bruin defenseman, the number 1 defenseman who got suspended and didn't play game
McElroy or Macklemore.
I mean, he's fucking great. I mean, because he has 22 personalities, and he will go from one to the other. There's something that I'm not giving away, but there's something that causes him from toggle between the characters from second to second. And just he is those characters that he becomes. It's mesmerizing. So Glass, you
James McAvoy.
McAvoy, okay, he's amazing. And so Glass, and again, I was surprised the budget wasn't huge. And maybe
it was a January release, which is always disturbing. It's like, that's where you put the shit movies.
Well, it's. What's interesting is, again, M. Night made 3 or 4 huge movies in a row. I mean, just was it. Just was Mr. Hollywood, the next great Spielberg. And then he went on a series of awfulness. So when he did Split, so Unbreakable was a huge budget movie with the biggest star at the height of his career that was a blockbuster success. So when he did Split, it was, I want to say, $5 million. It was at the high end of low budget movies. It was a high end of independent, like, what they pay for independent movies. I can't believe I just buried the lead about my movie. Anyways, so, but it cost $5 million. It made $100. Like I said, I didn't even know it came out, so it did well. It didn't do 2.5 billion Avengers well, but it did great, and they greenlight it. And so this movie, and I say this, and I mean this when I say this, it was only, I think, $20 million, the budget. And I say only because it is Samuel L. Jackson, who right now is in the biggest movie in the history of movies. He's been in more Avengers movies. Out of the 22 movies, I think he's been in 18 of them. And some of them he's been second or third lead. Some of them he's been the cameo at the end of it. But he's huge. Bruce Willis is still Bruce Willis. He's 65. I don't think he's 70, but he's
he made early 60s.
But still huge international star. And so, but when you think, wait a minute, you got. And then of course stars
James McAvoy. Yeah,
I forget who the woman is. They're all I'm not saying anything that's not on the poster, but they all get thrown in the same mental institution.
Sarah Paulson
and
the doctor.
I was thinking of maybe I was thinking somebody else, but there's a couple other bigger people. It's great, well, it's not great. It's good. It's good. I didn't feel like I had to run back and yell at the Redbox machine that I wanted my $2 back. I want my $2, which is what I said when I returned Bumblebee. I was returning Bumblebee. The person behind me, waiting, I'm like, oh, what are you going to get? Well, don't tell me. Just don't fucking get Bumblebee, And then I had to apologize because her kid, was just, off put. And so Glass was good. It was good. And I will say, M. Night, there is, Robot Chicken always had there's a twist. They always had M. Night character like just pop up and non sequiturs if a skit went off the rails or something. It's a twist. Mm-hmm. So there is a twist. And I'm like, and management and I are pretty good. She's better than I am, and I'm pretty okay with seeing certain things coming. And we were like, what the fuck? It did this. Unlike Bumblebee, good story, great acting. The CGI and the special effects were okay.
Were they CW quality, or just between CW and Star Wars?
Well, between CW and I don't even want to say Star
Bumblebee.
Bumblebee, yeah. Maybe. I mean, it was interesting. It was good. I mean, so the trilogy.
I've never seen Split myself, so I'll probably catch up on both at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's even if you have to go to Redbox, it's worth the $2 for it. I want it. I think if you rent it online, it's $5, or if you buy it, it's like $15. Don't buy it.
Class.
But you're right. But they're good. I mean, Split is harder to watch than the other ones because it's just him, and he's
a disturbed human being,
very disturbed human being. But a couple of his characters, because I'm not giving anything away, but a couple of his 22 personalities, some of them are interesting, some of them are mesmerizing, and a couple of them are like, whew, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. You're trying to back up, but you already have your back against the wall.
So, speaking of movies, my movie.
The Jacques movie?
It's my story, a young kid from Wilmington, Mass. without a dad who goes on to do a podcast with his buddy who has nothing to do with him or a podcast.
Well, you just told me the whole movie in the trailer.
But yeah, I've talked about it a number of times. I do not know why the guy who created Legendary Pictures, Bill Fay, a decade ago, 15 years ago, befriended me, and 8 years ago said, I'm leaving Legendary at the end of the year. I want to go make different kinds of movies. Here's the first script I want to make. Let's go make this together. The idea was he wanted to make smaller movies that, he was like, Legendary, he said, I remember it's like, I mean, he's proud of what he did with Legendary. I mean, this guy did the biggest movies. He did The Hangover. He did The 300. He did The First Independence Day, The Patriot, Watchmen. You go down the list, and he's like, the credit roll of a Legendary movie is longer than a Legendary movie, and you're not really making a movie. It's like steering the Titanic. It's like there's so many cogs in the wheel to make the ship turn that it's like you're not really behind the wheel turning the ship. Mm-hmm. It's everything's by committee. We want to hire this actor, and the 4 people at Legendary have to say yes, and then they have to take it to, at the time, Warner Brothers, their production company partner, and then clear it with DC. I mean, there's 20 people to say, yeah, we're good with him being the 14th male lead in this. So he's like, look, and he goes, plus I can do an independent movie for $2 million that makes $5 million, and my actual take home is more than I do, on Legendary. Plus, you can get a script, you can shoot a script, you can edit it, and you can sell it, and it's a year and a half, and you can do 6 or 7 movies in the time it takes to do Pacific Rim. That was the idea. 7 years later, so it did. It took a couple years to raise some money. Finally shot it. And I keep forgetting it. It was October 2015. I was in Jacksonville and Kosciuszko, Mississippi, doing this movie. And it's funny because when Bill called me the other day to say, okay, it's sold. It's going to have a 10-city limited release. It has to get into enough theaters just for the marketing to say, that it got a theatrical release. And it's going to, like I said, Bill's going to get me a list of the cities. I don't know if it's going to be in Boston. It will be in New York. And I even said to Bill, it's like, okay, what's the name of the movie now? Because it when we started, it was Extinction Event, and then it became Replicate or Replicate, and now
Replicant.
Thank you. Thank you.
Don't be a replicant.
And
be a replican.
And what's really funny about it, and so now it's called Annihilation.
Nope.
No, what?
It's called Assimilate.
Assimilate. Right, I'm sorry. It was Annihilation, and now it's Assimilate. And what's funny is the three leads at different times over the last 4 years.
People's Judean Front. I'm sorry, there was a Life of Brian reference that was 1 minute too late. Go on.
As we're the People's Front of Judea. You heathen. And anyways, but when they were trying to sell the movie, this one actress, and she is great. Her name is Andy. It was her first feature film, and a year or so ago, she was second to Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, and they're like, oh, we're going to build the movie around her, Andy, because Andy's really hot, and we're going to piggyback. One of the other guys, like Cam Gadet, it's like, oh, he's in the Magnificent Seven with Chris Pratt and Chris Pine and all this. We're going to piggyback it on him. And right now, the kid Callum, who, the redheaded kid from Austin and Alley, he's on a huge show on Hulu right now. And they're like, yeah, basically Callum is 49th in the world with recognizably his cue. I forget the term that Bill used. It's like, and yeah, people are like, oh, this is a Callum movie? We will buy it.
He's in the act on Hulu.
And so I guess that's huge. So the trailer's up on IMDb. I will post a link, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, congratulations to you and to...
Associate producer is my credit.
You're an AP. Yeah. Great. So now we can ditch the defunct sponsors and have a real sponsor. I don't know. What am I talking about?
Parenting tips.
No, thanks. Oh, you want to give one? Go ahead.
I don't. Trust issues. My kids are getting feeling too safe and too confident with their dad. So this week, I gave my son a peanut-based snack that caused him to have a use of an EpiPen at school and rush to the hospital. And this was 3 days after we were, quote-unquote, wrestling in the pool, in which I, quote-unquote, accidentally ripped a brace off of his braces with my finger that caused him to be rushed to an emergency orthodontist appointment. So basically, don't let your kids feel that safe and comfortable around you. Never really let them feel like the next beating isn't right around the corner.
Okay. And then now you got to buy another EpiPen.
I did.
It sucks.
I get to the store and, because he can't go back to school without a new EpiPen. And I get to the store and they're like, oh, well, the kind that your insurance covers, we don't have, but we have this other kind. And I'm like, can I go to another CVS? So yeah, it took a day. I almost didn't get to go to school today because I had to go to a couple CVS's to.
Well, you have one at home.
You have, yeah, right. So that's the thing. It's like
you can just give the one from.
But they want one from. They want it in a box.
Yours isn't. Oh, okay.
No, the one when I got it, it's like I because they come in the 2-pack. sent the one to school with the box,
Uh-huh.
and I kept the one, the one that stays with me.
Okay.
My backpack or the car. Yeah, it does. Well, this didn't come in the box. So, and that's
Okay.
it.
Great. That's enough for us. You have to go to the bathroom really bad? All right. Well, while Jacques going to the bathroom, I'm going to say to our audience, thank you for listening for these 100 episodes. It was quite the ride. And I hope you join us for many more episodes. And I really don't. Now that Jacques are not here, I want to just say I am having a hard time getting through a lot of these podcasts. I do like doing the podcast with Jacques. It's fun to talk and hang and see him and the kids and just bullshit about stuff. And, I don't get to do a lot of stuff with a lot of people every week. I have my family, but, you can only have so much of them. You kind of need other people in your life, like friends and stuff. So this is a great means to an end. But unfortunately, I am just not that good speaking extemporaneously off the top of my head. I hate the sound of my voice. I hate everything about the podcasting genre that I can't deliver to everybody who deserves to listen to me. Or this is a prime example. I'm kind of babbling here, and maybe I'll edit this part out, maybe I won't. But I'm doing it for Jacques. I'm doing it for the 6 people who like listening to Jacques talk and me mumble behind him. And sometimes I do funny voices, and that makes everything okay. I understand this means nothing to most people, this podcast, but whatever. You only live one life, and apparently this is my lot in it right now. I like Jacques. I like his family. I wish I could do better on this podcast, but, apparently I'm not working hard enough to get better on the podcast. And you got to put in those 10,000 hours, and so far I've only logged about 100 or 2. So long way to go. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So thanks for listening. I've made this long podcast even longer. Tune in for the next episode, and I'm sure there'll be more sideshows. I know you folks love the sideshows as well, so we'll have plenty more of those as well in the upcoming year. Oh my God! Don't forget.
Yeah, the secret's out.